All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 5. This is the Tuesday broadcast, the Love We Love Writing Week and Sounds of Cheering. So here's what we're going to do. I think I'm going to do something different for this one, meaning I'm going to break it into sections, right? Like break up the video and then post each section of the video so then you can find exactly what you want because I know whenever I'm faced with having to like watch a 20-minute video, for some reason it just it, you know, makes my heart hurt. But anyway, um, okay, so a couple things. So that's who I am. That's all regular. So I'm going to look at two things just to bring them to your attention, just to make sure people know um, what they are. So here we are in Canvas, and I'm going to go to the modules in Canvas. I want to make sure everybody knows that the broadcasts are here, right? So for each week, I post them here, and I also post them in the discussion board. So that's the one thing. The other thing is I'm still trying to deal with this group document idea. So I put it in the same place where you access your textbooks, right? So this is my sort of last shot on this because I figured, I don't know, I also want to figure it out in general. Um, so I've made some comments. I still have a couple people. If I haven't gotten to yours, or if you want me to do it right away, you can send them, you can email them to me, and I'll just send them back. But in any event, that's where I'm trying to, make it so people can access this document and as they work on their thesis from the beginning to the end of the semester. So those are the two things. All right. So here are the week 5 requirements. Um, So these pages, 293 to 318 and 402 to 422, these are similar to last week's where you are reading short, there are short readings, like short opinionated argumentative readings, which you will use for the discussion post. I'll explain in a moment. Um, so the lesson is really about like, all right, here's what a conclusion needs to be for the draft, and then basically how to get through an entire draft, like what putting a full first draft together entails. Obviously, there's a follow-up post. Oops. There's a checklist for the essay, which I'll go over, but you can download it from um, the lesson for week 5. Just see here. So assignment week 5, you're going to see this argumentative research paper. So that's a single document. That's a checklist of what you're looking to do. So it's trying to give you a way to be like, do I have this? You look at your essay, sort of check it off and then move on. So it's sort of a tool for you to use for that. I'll go over some of that briefly today, just what it says on it. Um, all right. Um, and then the usual week quiz, and then also the comma, the grammar thing for the week. Okay, so here is the checklist. Okay, the checklist that you have for your argumentative research. So here's the idea. Before you begin, you're trying to make sure that you have all the stuff you need. So you want to make sure you have all of your sources in one place that you can access them, right? Because you then eliminate time of trying to go hunt for something and find that one article. So you basically want to find and put all the articles in a single spot so that you can access them, whether you are able to download them all and have them like, I don't know, on your desktop or in a folder. You just want to be able to access them so they all live in the same place. Um, and then the idea is you want to have a plan, right, for your essay. So this idea of um, a map or an outline. I think way back in week 2, I put out a complete outline, like what an outline looks like for this particular type of essay. I can probably grab that and put that back too. Mhm, mhm. So let me show you what I mean. So this was right? Very basic outline of for this type of essay using the language of this essay, meaning, right, introduction, you have a hook where you're grabbing attention. These are ways to do that. You have a background or context of the subject in general. Um, do you need to define certain things or explain certain things so that you can then go forward? You want to make sure people understand what you're talking about, like how you're defining something, right? Um, Especially if you get into social media stuff, there is a lot of difference between like Facebook and like Snapchat and Twitter, right? They're all social media, but they're all completely different with different audiences and different purposes and different abilities and so on. So one thing to think about is starting to, pick what you're actually going to be focusing on. Um, and then setting that all up, and then you have your thesis statement, which is supposed to be your main argument, and then you can put in your three main grounds. Um, so hold on here. So I would say you want to use um, the outline. So I went ahead and attached an outline, like in a document form, to week 5 module. So you just say just the outline, but it's a Word document. So it explains what each part is, right? The claim, the grounds, all of those, counter argument. But then it also just gives you this um, way to follow it. So even if you don't fill it out, it's useful just to have it, right? As a way to sort of help you structure what you're writing about. So that is in module for week 5. Okay. And that's that. Okay. So here's the idea, right? The checklist for things that you're doing, right? Some things are easier to grasp than others, I think, anyway. Right? So you have, while you're writing the body of your essay, you're keeping balance, structure, and unity in mind. All right. I don't know exactly what that means, right? Your voice is the driving force. This is a little bit easier in the sense that you want mostly your words, right? That's the idea. So you're not pulling stuff from other people and like quoting them and then sort of moving. But the majority of everything is your own language, and then you're putting these bits of research in, embedding them in or integrating them in. I guess that's what so your voice is really running the show. Um, you've composed strong topic sentences, and I've given people some ideas about how to create topic sentences. Make sure they're an argument form. Maybe use the word because, and that helps you set up the argument, and then you can develop it from there. You don't introduce sources until you've set them up. So the idea is already there, and then the source comes in to sort of support that idea, whatever the idea is. Um, so you don't just introduce it and then talk about it after. You need to set it up, put part of the source or the quotation or the paraphrase or whatever, and then you're following it up, which I also talk about. Having the 3 steps to that, right? You set it up, you present it along with who the person is and why we care about them, and then you follow up. So, um, your sources are integrated with a signal phrase, paraphrased, quoted, right? So you're trying to use your own language but to help the flow go. Um, See, the only problem with the PowerPoint business is that you can't like type on stuff while you're using it. Like this one. So, okay, that's not too bad. Let's see, maybe this is the way to do it. Um, Again, your voice throughout. Um, there's an analogy in the textbook about how you're a lawyer, and the lawyer, does all of the talking and then brings in evidence when they need it. So that's the idea of it's mostly your voice, and you're bringing in information as you need it to prove whatever it is you want to prove. Um, Um, right. This is the good introduction, meaning you want to make your introduction now, like revise it. Like you've written an introduction already probably, but now once you get through a whole draft, you go back to the introduction and just look, right, to make sure that it's signaling what you've actually written. Same thing with the thesis, making sure that that sort of matches up with what you've actually developed in the actual essay. You want to make sure your hook is solid. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the conclusion today. So I'll do a thing on that. So the idea about the conclusion is and in the lesson, they give you several different techniques or ideas of what you want to do when you're concluding. My one main technique that's not necessarily in there, but mine that I tell everybody to try to use is to try to reconnect with the introduction. So, and specifically, if you have a hook of some sort, if you ask a question or if you tell a little story about somebody, whatever it is you're using to get people's attention, in the conclusion, if you can refer back to it, right, or bring it back up, that makes the essay much stronger and tighter. And then they have what you do while you're in the introduction, right? You're basically like sort of like a summation, I guess, in court, right? The lawyer's final argument, right? Where you're like, okay, here's what I've told you, here's the evidence that I've given, and here's the ideas, and this is correct. And then you want to leave an impression of some sort. Um, so actually, the analogy with the lawyer works pretty well for argumentative essays. I tell people this too: if you have a draft done, read it out loud to yourself. That helps you pick out minor grammar errors that you or words that you've skipped, because everybody does that. But if you have to read it out loud, your ear will pick it up faster than your eyes usually, because your eyes, scan it. And you're like, everything's fine.